So the wildest story that I can tell you from my agency is actually when one of my soon-to-be customers, I assume, actually lied to us and bought a policy from us, and then we're trying to bind the bundle, and then we actually only ended up doing the auto. And he said that he would do the homeowners the next week. So it turns out that the next day after doing the auto policy with us, he went to another agency nearby and he actually purchased home insurance from them. And everything was fine. We're cool with that. However, after, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, claims called me and they said, hey, we actually have a claim, a water backup claim from this customer. And he is saying that he told you to start the policy when he bought the auto policy, and the policy that he has is really not going to cover him because, he says that the rain actually took place the day or the night when he bought the auto policy. So he was trying to get coverage for that. And so I had to explain everything to claims and all of that. And it turns out that even if he had bought it, if we had bound it, it would have not covered him because there's a 10-day waiting period for water backup claims. And so they told me that, and I explained all of that to me. So he got so mad that he actually threatened to come to the office and beat me up. So I was like, you know what? I'm glad that you're telling me because now I can file a police report and let the police if it happens to me, they can go looking for you. And, it was a little scary, I guess, at first, but, it's something that we just laugh about now.
You were looking over your shoulder there for a couple of weeks, huh?
Actually,
that's crazy.
Here's the thing, you guys, I don't know how far you live from your agency, but actually I'm like 5 minutes from my agency. So anyone could, just follow me and, but, I'm a firm believer that if you do well by everyone, there's really nothing to fear. And that's really how I live my life. So wasn't really afraid, but
yeah,
just a story to tell.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyways, my name is Miguel Gonzalez. I'm from Bolingbrook and I've had my agency for close to 15 years. And it's great to be here with you guys.
Insurance dudes are on a mission to escape being handcuffed by our agencies.
How? By uncovering the secrets to creating a predictable, consistent, and profitable agency sales machine.
I am Craig Pretzinger.
I am Jason Feldman.
We are agents.
We are insurance dudes.
Right now, while it's fresh in your mind, check out live.teledudes.com.
We took our notes from over 100 interviews with top agents from around the country and made it into a live webcast.
Using these strategies led Craig and I to selling more than $10 million in premium in the last 2 years.
On this call, you'll receive the exact blueprint to get the same results.
Just go to live.teledudes.com to register for this upcoming Tuesday's live call with us.
If you jump on this call with us, we're certain 2022 will be an absolutely fantastic year for you.
See you there.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, welcome to the insurance.
Miguel.
Welcome, Miguel.
And of course, I am an insurance dude.
Yes.
There we go.
He's putting on the gear. Look at that.
That's great. I like this hat a lot. I wear it all the time.
I love it.
And I remember Jason saying once that, that's a way of marketing because, people are going to be like, hey, you're in the insurance. And I've actually gotten that a couple of times. So that's cool.
You are the insurance dude with that hat on.
Yeah, it is funny. People always ask, like, what? What is that? You would never think that the word dude and insurance would ever go together until they met us knuckleheads.
Right.
Yeah. But it is a good conversation.
For 500 episodes.
Wow. That's amazing. That's pretty
crazy.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, Miguel, we've known you for a while, but we actually don't know over this. We found out that you've been an insurance dude for 15 years now. But what got you into this crazy business of insurance?
Well, it's funny that you ask because I know that, oftentimes I've heard people say that, insurance is not one of those things that people want to grow up and do that for a living, right? And I don't think I grew up wanting to be an insurance agent, but my mom was a life insurance agent. My uncle was a life insurance agent. And then when I was in college, I didn't know this, but one of my uncles actually owned an insurance agency. And when I realized that he was with Allstate, I actually went over and, hey, would you hire me? And so he did. So I worked for him for a few years. When I was in college, I actually got my sister in the agency with my uncle. And so I really liked it, So I ended up graduating from college in 96, went on to work as a software engineer for 10 years. And when I was going to be a father, I started thinking like, you know what, I don't think I can keep up with this schedule because I really loved what I did, but it was kind of demanding. I worked downtown and hours were long and, there's traveling involved in my future. And so I thought back and I actually went back to one of the persons that I knew from Allstate. And he was like, yeah, of course, man, we'll consider you. And it's funny because I did one of those, personality assessments. And I guess I didn't come back as the ideal candidate. He said, you're okay, but, we'll probably give you a chance just because of your background. And we know that you worked in insurance before. So, but that's what got me in insurance. And I don't know, I think I liked it. I like technology and everything, but I think I kind of knew that I would always come back to insurance because, it had just been in my family for a while.
So
That's
what
cool.
was one of the big, oh, sorry.
I was just saying that's cool.
Oh, it is cool. It's very cool. And from that, what would you say was the biggest early win that got you going, got you excited about what you were doing, besides somebody threatening to beat you up?
Well, I think that, it's kind of hard, it's true that I had a background in insurance and all that. However, my background was not really being an owner or running a business, right? So knowing how to write the policy, knowing how to take a payment or whatever I did before, is really no comparison to actually running an agency. So for me, it was a big shock, the first 5-6 months. And I think, what one of my biggest wins was when I hired my first person, right? I remember that she started with me like in December. I opened the agency in March. And that, first part of the year, I kind of went in by myself. Sure, I had the money for marketing, was doing a little bit, trying to do everything myself. And I wasn't doing too bad. I got my startup bonus and all of that. So that was one of the early wins, getting all those initial bonuses. But I think the one thing that made the biggest difference is when I hired someone and actually started marketing with that person, started buying actual internet leads, right? And they were a lot better back then. But I think... yeah, realizing that I was not going to be the one actually talking to customers all the time, and that I needed someone else, and actually pulling the trigger on that and deciding to spend money and bringing someone on board, spending money on marketing, all that, and then seeing the return of that and actually making it back in bonus. That was I think the one thing that made the difference for me early on.
That is funny how that works out, huh? It's like, it's almost impossible to not look at it like an expense, like it's just costing so much money, when in actuality, you're buying time, you're buying, you know what I mean? Like it's an investment in the future. It's definitely delayed gratification, but it's extremely liberating, that feeling.
And that, anybody that I talk to that's just starting as an insurance agent or really any other business, that's one of the things that I kind of bring to their attention, right? Like, I don't, and this is why I appreciate, guys like you, because, you go on and you tell us all, give us a recipe, through the shows and the other ventures that you have going on how to do it. And back then, man, I wish somebody was out there, doing the same thing that you guys are doing with Teledudes or with the podcast, because there wasn't really anybody that would talk to me back then, and just figuring it out on your own. I mean, it was scary. And it was kind of costly, to be honest with you. But going back to that, it's just realizing that you do need to let go of that money and trust the process that you're going to make it back. And honestly, it's been one of the best investments in my life, I feel.
That's awesome. When I started, it's going to be 6 years. It's exactly 6 years ago. When I started, I'll never forget, like, trying to figure it all out. And what is the recipe? Like, what do you do? Hearing about all the cross-selling and everything else, we could not gain traction. Not the kind of traction that you see in emails and, what all the other agents are doing. And it just, nothing made sense. So yeah, it is. And you feel like you're on an island, because especially when you want to do a lot more, I remember reaching out to, the carriers and asking what's the competitive advantage. And they pretty much said, we can't tell you anything legally. And I was like, well, that's crazy. because I don't know
Right.
anything. They're like, you are. And I'm like, I know nothing. I know nothing about what I'm doing. So if I'm the like advantage here, we are in some big trouble. But
Yeah. And that's exactly how it was. I mean, I remember going to actually one of the original meetings, early on, and just, I always like to ask a lot of questions, and you guys probably know when, when I'm in some of the Zoom meetings and that I can't help myself, except that, sometimes I don't turn on my camera, so I can't ask questions if I don't have a camera. But I remember early on going to one of the meetings, and I was sitting right at the front and trying to ask questions and trying to meet people. And man, it was hard. It was hard because, everyone is on their own. And in a way, we're kind of competing against each other, I guess. But,
right.
And I remember talking to someone, and I remember his name, Eric. He was a heavy hitter in my market. And then I remember, hey, dude, so what's going on? How are you doing? He was like, I'm buying leads from actually X dates from this vendor, and I can tell you more if you call me. And then I called him, and man, he never picked up. And then I called him again, and he never picked up. And so, and I mean, I don't blame them. Obviously, they're not getting paid to do that. It's not their job to do that. But it's all just to, to show really how hard it could be and how valuable it is when people do things that would help others, like, like some of the things that a lot of other guys are doing, and you guys also.
Yeah. So take us back. You said you started, it was a while before you did that first hire. So since then, that was 15 years ago, up to now, what does your agency look like with your team, and what are their roles in the agency?
So, I mean, so back then, obviously it was me, it took a couple of years, before I hired a couple more people and that. And so I've gone through the process much like anybody else, I think, just realizing that your role eventually needs to change, right? Like, at the beginning, I was doing a lot of the service, a lot of the writing myself and all of that. And right now I have a team of 7 people, and we are not entirely divided in sales and service, but it's more, I think we try to do more like task oriented, where, some of us are more specialized, not necessarily 100% in service, but maybe in different tasks, right? And I've gone back and forth, with different things, but right now, that seems to be working really good. Like, one of my agents, she's really crushing it, and she's just taking all the call-ins and all of my referrals, I give them to her. She's like a closer. And then, I have a couple of other agents that are just doing what we call the outside sales stuff, where it's more outbound calling and all of that. And then I have a few more people that are basically just doing the service work and helping us get leads out of those inbound calls. And that is the structure. So it seems to be working for now. I mean, I'm always open to making adjustments and just changing depending on the need. But I think that based on what I'm doing right now, I will try to continue to scale that a little bit more and see how far I can get before I start, looking at different options.
It's awesome to get to having that team, and they look up to you, and you're helping change their lives, right? By providing, being a positive role model and helping them be successful. What kind of things have you done in the agency to create that, like a strong culture? Because it sounds like you have that there.
Well, I started going to a lot of those, self-development, seminars and things like that, and then attending different insurance events and things and all sorts of things. And I started picking up different things everywhere, but it really was hard to implement them. And I think, when I started looking at some of the roadmaps that are actually given to us by some of those event organizers, right, it was kind of hard. So to be honest with you, I started following a more specific plan when I implemented a peak performance plan that you have. And that really gave me more focus. And first of all, making sure that I was consistent with scripts, consistent with training, consistent with marketing, and just making sure that it was not the flavor of the day, right? And obviously, things have changed a little bit, in terms of how we handle things. But there are things that I am very consistent with that I don't really change anymore. And one of them is making sure that we keep the accountability through self-reporting, right? Tracking activity and basically every day being on that, having our daily meetings and just touching base, even when it gets kind of hard. And I know that you were talking about making it funner and all of that through doing it differently. I remember one of my agents actually was telling me that, she learned a technique of actually doing the script with a really high pitched voice, right? So, just finding variety with how to implement things, but being consistent with the core structure of the things that I think that make the culture really unique and valuable. And then besides that, honestly, I feel that I care a lot about my team. My team is really excellent, right? And I would give anything for anyone in my team. They're really hard workers, and helping them grow in the industry is really one of my top priorities. And that's the other reason why, I want to be consistent, because I think it's hard to get to that point when you realize that, you know what, I'm not actually being a nice person to this team member by not keeping them accountable, because I'm not doing them any favors. That's really not going to help them. That's not going to help them make more money in the future in commissions or really grow as a professional. And so taking on that role of knowing that, hey, you kind of are responsible as a leader to help this person grow as a professional, to help this person provide for their family, and really create an opportunity for them so that they could continue to do that. And that realization, I think, is one of the reasons why I am very focused on being consistent with these things that I kind of brought up to you.
Yeah, it's funny. It kind of mimics kids too, right? Like, it's easy to just sweep some stuff under the rug, but at the end of the day, you're not helping them. Like, they need structure, they need accountability so that they can grow up to be awesome young men and women. But I mean, the same with our staff, you want them to grow. And it's funny how in our agencies, it just seems like, if you don't help someone grow, they eventually will find that somewhere else, but it's our job to nurture successful people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, it's hard to come to that point because you think like, oh man, I don't want to be tough. They may be, I don't know, going through something. I don't know. Really, it's in everyone's best interest to make sure that we're consistent, that we keep them accountable, that we stay accountable ourselves. And that is really, I think, what you would expect from anyone that cares about you, right?
100%. So how do you recruit? How do you bring people on the team?
Well, there are many different ways, right? I mean, as most of us right now, that's probably the most difficult part. But for me, I use right now different vendors. I have used, I don't know if we can mention them in name, but we have used the group events with the two different vendors that seem to be common nowadays. And then I've also used direct advertising through Indeed. And then also with the team. Actually, I was trying to bring someone on board this week that was referred to me by one of my team members. I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but I think that just having all those different sources is important. I am trying to figure out how to advertise through Facebook and maybe, just get a few applicants through there. And right now, that's basically what I do.
Cool.
Awesome. So you bring them on, let's say you hire them, right? You do your whole interviewing process, find them. What do you do once they're in the door that makes them part of the team and then ultimately successful?
Well, right now, I have a plan for everyone, right? An onboarding plan where it varies depending a little bit on the experience. If it's someone that doesn't have a license, it will be a little bit different than someone that's already licensed. But typically, what I do is I go through right now, I'm actually going through the script that we have, our sales script, and make sure that before they get in the phones, before they before they quote anybody, they actually know that script really good, to make sure that they actually know how to explain coverage the way that I wanted to explain it. And I know that there's different opinions, right? Like a lot of people like to just put them on the phone and make sure that they have the grit. And I have tried that too. And I think it has worked also. But right now I'm going this way just because I want them to feel empowered or really confident that they know what they're doing before they start talking to anybody about insurance. So I have basically a list of trainings that we do, and really, I mean, they're not ready to actually go through until maybe second week of that. And I spend time with them basically, I don't know, like 3-4 hours daily, just practicing and making sure that they know how to explain insurance, how to overcome the front end objections, and also the closing techniques.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what would you say out of all of your the training that you do, what is your most effective training tip that you could give all the insurance dudes and dudettes out there?
I think that one of the most effective things that I have learned is to get to know the person a little bit better and know how they learn. And I know that people use different personality assessments, and some people, swear by them. Some people don't. For me, I really do like them because it tells me a little bit more about how they learn, what kind of person they are, what kinds of things are important to them. And so that way, when I'm training with them, I can make that connection. And I can almost like when we're trying to close a customer, right? That you tell them stories, you illustrate how this insurance policy is going to actually help them, protect their family. Same way, the better I know my team member, the better I'm going to be able to coach them and actually bring them on board with the scripts and really the culture of the agency. So that way, when I'm training with them, I can tell them like, look, this is a way that you would do it, because remember that, in a year you want to get married and you want to probably buy a nice ring for fiance. So this is, just making sure that you follow our script, that you overcome the objections at least 3 times. It's going to help you maybe not close every single person, but we don't need every single one. We just need 2-3 more. And so this is how you're going to do it. And so that piece of doing a personality assessment and just knowing them a little bit better, I think is crucial to me.
How about keeping them motivated? Because there's a lot of monotony, right? Quote after quote after quote. How do you keep them? How do you keep them loving it?
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Especially, I mean, I think it depends on the role. For me, it is more difficult to keep a person motivated when they're on the outside team, where it's basically a lot of calls and a lot of rejection. Sometimes it does seem like at times you really don't get it right. Taking breaks in between, and maybe also taking some of those calls that maybe they were not successful with, and just doing it with them. Like I remember last year, I think it was maybe a couple of years ago, a little bit longer. I had someone, he was like, "Oh, dude, man, no, it's not happening, Miguel." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, well, people are answering, but they don't really want insurance, man. Like, "Oh, show me one person that you got." Well, I got this one, Gary. Okay, so what do you know about him? Well, I don't know. I mean, it's just that he doesn't want insurance, man. Do you figure out who he's with? Yeah, he's with Progressive. All right, let's do this. Let me call him. Are you going to call him? I'm like, yeah, but he said not to call him. He's not interested. I'm like, dude, we just bought that lead, man. We can call. Let's call him again. So I call him, and I'm like, hey, Gary, how's it going? He's like, yeah, who's this? Like, hey, this is Miguel from Allstate. And look, you were just talking to Ron a few minutes ago. And yeah, so he was just telling me that you're actually happy with Progressive. But I think that, there's a couple of things that maybe you didn't realize. And so I just want to tell you a little bit more. So what car do you have with Progressive? He's like, I'm actually a truck driver. I don't really drive that much. I'm like, really? Oh, I can hear that. Where are you at right now? Oh, I'm in Michigan. And so long story short, I ended up getting the quote and I handed it to him. And I think that, just doing that with them, helps them see that not only that it could be done, but that I'm willing to do it, right? That I'm not telling them to do something that I wouldn't do myself. It doesn't always work out. Right. I tried that with another person like a few months later, and they actually hung up on me. So I was like, sorry, man. But, I was laughing about it with them. But I think that part of just, helping them see that it could be done, and also that I'm willing to do it, that also is a way that I keep them motivated.
And the fact, like, even if you get hung up on, you're like, nah, no big deal. Who cares?
Right.
Like, just for them to see, because they always think of the worst, it feels so, but like, look, it's no big deal. You did it. Got it over with.
Yes, and that's actually a tip that I learned also from, and I think a few of my guys learned from my. There's a word that we say in Spanish for someone that has your same name. So my tocayo, he will know, right? So I learned that from Miguel. Like, you know what? If you get hung up, you're winning, and that's basically what I tell him, right? Yeah, look, man, we're winning, man. If we get hung up on, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'd rather you get hung up on than you give up. So,
Yeah. If you're not
The
getting
last-
hung up on, then you're not trying hard enough.
exactly.
Hey, what are you still doing here?
Well, while you're still here and while it's fresh in your mind, check out live.teledudes.com.
Yeah, if you weren't listening before, we took notes from over 100 interviews with top agents from around the country and made it into a live webcast.
Using these strategies did help Craig and I write over 10 million in premium in the last couple years.
And let me tell you, on this call, you'll receive the exact blueprint to get the very same results.
Again, that's live.teledudes.com to register for this upcoming Tuesday's live call with us.
And if you jump on with us, we are certain 2022 will be an absolutely fantastic year for you.
See you there.